Okay, today we have a story about enterprise competency management, which is a huge topic for so many of you out there. And today we have Patrick Canal here to talk about how he worked with a client to roll out enterprise-wide competency models across the globe and do so successfully, which is no easy feat. Patrick, welcome.
Thanks, Beth.
So tell us a little bit about your client and the challenge that they were facing and why they felt like they needed a global competency model.
Sure. So this was a global client that had just gone through a pretty large merger recently, and there was a big push for obvious reasons to have sort of a one company mentality, right? One company culture, one company set of behaviors, etc. And so they were at this sort of pivotal point of how do we make that happen? And they had some existing competency models in place in pockets and in some of the legacy parts of the organization, but obviously this was a new structure and a new organization, so they had to do something different. And so they really came to us to say, how can you help us think this through and put something together that is going to be an enterprise focus and can be rolled out globally. So we really rolled up our sleeves with them. It was actually a lot of fun. They had some existing inputs and things that already were in place that they had to make sure were still somewhat visible in the model, but they didn't want to be married or attached to those all that firmly. So it was kind of a sweet spot we had to find there. We took a look at what they had existing and what we could make sure is a visible part of the model. We then really linked very closely to their future business strategy. So they had a very clear direction. The CEO is very clear around how they were going to define the strategy for this new organization and how they were going to communicate it very simply and succinctly, which really helped us because it gave us something to latch on very easily and to align to. And so we did work and did some interviews at their senior executive level to understand more about the strategy, where they're headed, what are the impacts for what leaders need to do differently in the organization as a result of that, and got very clear on a set of executive competencies at that level, because that's really going to set the stage for a lot of what's going to cascade down in the organization. We then worked really closely on what kind of structure was going to be important. So how many levels do they need to have, and trying to keep it as simple as possible. And so through a lot of discussions and what we've done with other clients, we landed on 4 levels, leadership levels, and working to use the competencies that we identified at executive level, how we could cascade those down to mid-level leaders, frontline leaders, etc. And then doing validation work in talking to leaders at lower levels to validate, are these the right behaviors? Are there things that might be missing, etc., to make sure, again, there was going to be the right level of buy-in. But it was fun work, and we had to move quickly as well, so that's always part of the challenge. So it was also finding the sweet spot with the right level, the right number of levels, but also what's the right approach that's going to allow us to get traction here. So we ended up pulling that together, and it's in place now and has become the backdrop now for all their talent management applications, so including enterprise selection, development, and now I'm also moving into succession. So it was really fun work to do, and it was really enjoyed sort of rolling up our sleeves, like I said, with them.
So once you had the competency model in place, how did you start to bring that to life? A lot of people have questions around once they